Hello, everyone. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Okay,
Good
sorry
evening.
for the delay. The facilitator will join us soon. But in the meantime, can we just give our take home from the last class? Maybe one or two people or more. We can start with that.
I think only 7 people have connected, and I just want to suggest that because if we don't start early, Nigerians, before you know it, now everybody will say they will start, and they will keep, wasting time to finish the program. So I want to suggest that today now we can understand that the facilitator is here to arrive. At the time the facilitator comes earlier than everybody, I think we should just start so that it's part of integrity, please. So that we don't waste time to spend longer than necessary that we should. It's just my observation, please. Thank you.
Okay, man. Thank you very much.
I'm with you on that, Esther. Thank you.
It's true. Okay, so we can start with the take home first before the facilitator joins.
Okay, last class we actually we studied business case present, how to do your business case and how to present a business case. And we were made to understand that the business case document speaks to what you want to do. There are some key elements that should be there. It's like trying to convince people on your product or what you want to do, or to get approval over certain projects. You need to actually do a business case. We also made to understand that your executive summary in the business case should be watertight, such that some of the key elements in that business case should be summarized in your executive summary. Reasons being that a lot of people don't really have time to go over it. So at that first contact, your executive summary should be able to tell them, should be something that they want to yearn for, should come out that way. We also saw that business case had a beginning and also have a conclusion. So we saw that your business case must also prefer solution. You must also, whatever the case you are putting forward, you must also prefer a solution that should also have some key drivers. Your business case must have, you must do a cost analysis, you must do cost benefits, you must do a proper risk assessment. All of that should be in that document. Okay, and let me stop here so that others can have one or two things that I didn't talk about.
Thank you very much, Ms. Philomena. That was very good. Okay, any other person?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Okay, we also learned last class that a business case can be rejected for the following reasons. If the business case is poorly written, maybe too wordy, or there are so many grammatical errors, in the business case, it will put, the people who want to consider that project, it will put them off easily. And if you are presenting, you lack confidence, that's another issue. And in your presentation, you don't have supporting data, because the supporting data, will help you to present properly and to be like a supporting document that will enable the listeners to understand that you know what you are presenting, you know what you are doing. So if you are writing a business case, you should be very careful. Check the grammatical errors, then do a lot of researches. Know the business itself and the pros and cons of the business, so that when you are presenting, it goes direct to the point, And when you show confidence in your presentation, it helps the listeners to understand that, to know that you understand what you are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. Okay, so now the facilitator is here. Maybe we'll take over from here.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir. You're welcome.
Yeah. I apologize for coming late. I had a bit of delay with something that was supposed to. I mean, I was in a meeting and it was supposed to end by 4:40, but unfortunately, it extended a little bit longer. And I apologize, please. It's usually not my practice to come late for a class. That was something that was beyond my control. Are we together?
Yes, fine. You can carry on now.
On behalf of
Right,
the
so
class, sir, we accept your apology. Welcome on board.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was very reassuring. So I see that you've been engaged for the time that I was not here, and you did a view of what we had in the last class. So yeah, I wouldn't need to do that. I would have started from there because I would like to see how much how much you took from that class and how much you've learned, outside the class on that particular topic. But today we'll be taking human resources management. Some of you might wonder that you came for a facility management training. Why are you doing a course, or why are you taking a course on human resource? I'm very sure that by the time we finish this class, you will see how important it is for you to take this course, and how your daily activities across your site, reflect the skills that you would learn from this course. So you know the rules already, so I don't think we need to go into details with that. So course objective, what we expect you to learn by the end of this class, right? My goal today is for you to, be able to understand what hiring practice is and what is important for you to know when you're hiring, which for me, is hiring right. And by hiring right, I mean hiring the right person for the position that you're trying to fill, right? So once we've taken that, we would go to succession planning and motivating.
You now come and do the 200 line,
Can
the 100 line.
you mute your mic, please? Yes, so once we've dealt with hiring right, we'll go straight to motivating staff, retaining staff, and succession planning. And then from there, we move to employee development, and then we round it up with environmental factors, affecting productivity within the workplace. And we will now marry everything together so that we can highlight how all of them links together. And, I'm very sure that by the time we get to the last module, you would have seen how important that is. Yeah, so let's take the first module, which is a hiring practice for facility management roles. So who here has been involved in hiring within your organization? Can anybody speak, please? If you've been involved in hiring any employee in the organization, I like to hear from you. Just indicate that you have been involved.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kayode. So tell me about it. So Kayode, tell me about it. What role did you play, right? And what was the process?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say, when I want to hire let me use a plumber as an example. I have plumber, I have other stuffs, but let me use plumber as an example. So what I need to know when I want to hire a plumber is, first of all, he presents a CV for me. I check through his CV, then we ask him some question just to know whether truly he has done those jobs. Then having asked, then we ask if he can work within the team, what are his strengths and his weakness. Are you getting me? We ask those questions. So after we ask those questions, from there, we do what we call the background checking. We call where he has worked from to know whether truly he has worked. Does he have a good character? Because character also matters. So we check the character aspects. So from there, the HR now have to onboard him. But before the onboardment, we have to give him the biodata guarantor form, non-disclosure form. Are you getting me? We now give him the employment form after he has provided all other details. So that is why we onboard him.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kyle. Any other person? I think Destiny, you were going to say something.
Okay, yes. Okay, so first and foremost, I'll ask the person to let me use for instance, like cleaners, because I have other staffs, but mostly cleaners, because when hiring, I also hire them also for other residents that need people to work with them. So first and foremost, I check those ones that wants to stay. So I told them to submit. I will tell them to submit their CV. So after CV, then I will have one-on-one conversation with them to ask some questions about their strength and their weaknesses. Also, the other places that they have worked. Then, if I could not find out in all the places, but at least one place to find out where they have worked before, to check their character also, whether they have done something wrong that make them not to work in that particular place anymore. Then after then, that is when I will now refer it to the HR also to also have a conversation with the person. So that's my own part. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Mr. Destiny, where do you work and what role?
Okay. I work as a facility manager in Ashbel Apartment.
Okay. Mr. Kayode, where do you work and what role do you occupy?
So I'm a director. So
Right.
I own like two limited company. Let me use it like that.
Okay, great. So I had to ask that question where you work, and because I wanted to be able to compare both organizations together and use it to relate to my explanation, right? As a director, definitely you are at the very top and the final decision rests on your table, right? Whether hiring, whether making payments, whether making expenses, you take that final decision. And it's the same thing for when the staff is going to be hired. Even though you have soldiers or food soldiers, that report to you, if it's a business that you've grown, over time, and you've been able to put a structure, your team, at that point, you probably have one or two persons who works in HR, and you also have other department within the organization, right? Even though there are no HR, I mean, maybe you don't have a HR team, probably because you're still very small, right? There still need to be hiring, and certain people have to carry out that job, right? But what I want us to understand is that the hiring process hiring is a process and it involves different set of people. And for you to be able to do this right, everybody needs to play their role and play it well. And what are those people and what role are they supposed to play, right? Because it is important that we get these processes right? And we, no matter how small or big the organization is, what is done is the right thing. Because if you don't do the right thing, you probably will be hiring the wrong person for the right role. Now, when we talk about hiring FM job, right FM hiring for the right FM job, what exactly do we mean? You have a particular role that you want to fill, whether facility manager, whether plumber, whether electrician, whether cleaner, whether a technical supervisor, whether a swimming pool technician, or whatever role you want to fill. There has to be a need for it. And that's where it starts from. Sometimes people just think that let's hire this person. Maybe because you owe that person a favor, or that person is in your family, and you work in a big organization, you occupy a position where you can actually influence a lot of things. You think that, okay, let me help my brother to get a job here. And there's no need for that particular role. But because you want to favor somebody, you decided to initiate that hiring process when there's really no need for it. You've already gotten it wrong. At that point, hiring right is actually during that process has already been defeated from the very beginning. So you have to first of all check from the very beginning, which is there a need for it? When a staff is needed, there's usually a request department, or somebody within the organization that is raising a request for us to hire that particular staff. If it's a big organization, right, you have an organization. Let's use an FM company, for example, right? Some of the top FM companies in Nigeria, even the indigenous ones, they're very organized to the point where they have different departments and different units, right? And for every department, there are people that are members of that department, and they do the work that needs to be done in that department. And sometimes scope change, right? Project increase, for many reasons, there would be a need for a staff to be hired. Maybe, for instance, an FM company within the business development department, they've been able to, bring in a new project. So at that point, there is a need for staff, not just one, not two. In some cases, it could be as many as 100, depending on the size of the project, right? So that then activates the need for staff. And at that point, there is a requisition, right? Someone has to raise a request for that staff. It could be maybe the business development department, depending on how the organization is structured. Because some organization, when you bring in a project, right, when the maybe business development department brings in a project, is also their role, project manage starting off that project. As a matter of fact, in some organizations, they actually manage that project first before officially about to operation. So at that point, one raising requests for staff, right? And that requisition then goes to the HR. So if it's a small business, like Mr. Kayode's business, right? He owns an FM company, and he probably have maybe 2 or 3 people that works with him, to get things going. And maybe one of them is the operations manager, right? Another maybe procurement and business development together, as or as the second person. And then you have the third person, who probably is maybe HRO admin and any other thing that you can add to that, right? So the business, the person handling procurement through business development at that point, who of course brought the business in, raises that request and pass it to admin, who also handles HR. Now, there are certain things that you do. In established organization, they will tell you, some will tell you, raise a requisition. So some HRO departments, they've developed form, right? That is a requisition form for staff first. So you then fill that form, and in that form, definitely there are certain details that they expect you to provide. The job to be done, that is the duties of the person that you're hiring, the qualifications that that person needs to have, the attitude and character that person needs to have, like whether Mr. Kayode or Mr. Emmanuel, I'm not really sure who said it. Attitude to work is also very important. In fact, sometimes you can have someone who is very qualified in terms of the skills, in terms of the technical skills, but attitude is so poor, you cannot even work with that person, right? It becomes a problem because they keep giving their supervisors problem on a daily basis. So that also is clearly highlighted, and many other requirements that needs to be, available. Now, that's for an organization that's probably established, right? A requisition form is available, and you can, like Mr. Kayode, that is a small business. What would most likely happen, or what should happen? What is the right process that should happen? Then you have the person that brought the business, who, of course, in the context that I've explained, is the BD stroke procurement. That person raises a right, but while doing so, he also would have developed the requirement that is needed, which is a JD, right? So, when even the requisition that you pass to the HRO department in the established organization, they eventually turn that to a JD, which is passed to the staff eventually when the staff is brought in, right? So in this case, for small business like Mr. Kayode, what most small organizations do is to then develop what we call a task notification, right? So all of these are documents that can help you build that requirement. The major thing here is that there has to be a requirement. You cannot hire somebody without understanding or without coming up with what exactly you want. It has to be clear. It has to be concise. It shouldn't be ambiguous. Everything has to be clear and straight to the point. What exactly do you need? What is the qualification? What should be the qualification of the person? How many years experience should this person have? What sector of the economy? You have to be very specific. Now, this document is what guides whoever is going to source for people to come in, or whoever is going to hire those people. Now, it could be as a requisition, it could be a tax notification, it could be a JD or whatever it is. Now, if it is an established organization, the HRO that will most likely or definitely turn that document into an advert. So when you go online, you see certain adverts, being displayed. This role we're trying to fill this role. Employment type is this. They list everything. Duties, they list it out. Qualification, they go. Experience, So that information is actually provided from the demand department or the demand person. That is the person that is demanding for staff, or the person that's requesting for staff. Now, once that is done, it moves to the HRO unit, which for a larger organization, right? Or an organization that is very structured. And then they do a publication, put it online so that people can apply. And then eventually they start sourcing for CV. That post that they've put out there. Some organization would, consult a sourcing firm. Some organizations also, the larger ones, they have a very large HR department. So they have someone whose specific role is sourcing. So what they do is to continue to look for candidates, CVs, that they can interview for roles that are currently being filled or roles that will be filled in the future. Smaller organizations, they make the post and then they start to receive CVs. While some, they also try to talk to, friends here and there to see how they can get CVs. So what is important is certain things actually needs to be done. And I pointed out that it starts from, a need for it. And from there, it goes to setting out the requirements for that group. From there, it moves to getting CV. And once you have CVs and those are valuable, then you move to interview. When a point of interviewing your candidates, right? It is very important that you prepare well. You know, sometimes this is what happens. People just go to interview without really putting a thought to it. You know, they feel like this is something that we do every day, but you forget that you interview different people. The person you interviewed yesterday is different from who you're interviewing today. And you're not sure how to take the information that you're giving. So you also need to, you know, prepare by looking at the person's candidate, looking at the candidate's CV, looking at where the person has worked, the experience, the kind of person that, you know, he or she most likely is. Now, let's look at the interview process, right? When that interview is going on, there are certain things that you need to do, right? So even before it starts, like preparing for the interview is not just about looking at the CV. It also involves the actual activity, I mean, the actual interview, how it is going to happen. You have to plan it in terms of how long is this interview going to last. Because if you don't put time to it, it gets to a point where the conversation gets too long and it becomes boring, it becomes tiring, and even the candidate might not be comfortable, you know, with a long conversation. But you have to be very clear on how long you want that to happen, and that starts from, you know, you have to prepare have well thought out questions, because questions are what will bring out the information that you want to hear. So your questions have to be planned. You have to put serious thought to it. What should be the question? And the question has to be questions that would reveal the information that you want to hear. And, you know, sometimes people come and they ask cliche questions in an interview. You have to focus on questions that are, you know, open-minded, and they tend to speak to their achievements and not just, you know, story. You also have to find a way to make the interviewing very comfortable, because many organizations have actually lost good candidates just because the person is not comfortable. People are different. You know, we talked about that in the last class. Some people are not able to handle anxiety, and as a result, they start to fidget, and you'll be surprised that if you hire them for the job, they will do outstandingly well. But because you didn't put them in a place where they are comfortable enough to respond to your questions and give you their best, you end up losing that good. So very important that, you know, you ask the right questions, right? Ask questions about their past performance, right? And those questions should focus on achievements. Don't focus too much on stories. What exactly have they done in terms of output? What was the output of each of the roles that they've played? What impact have they made where they worked before? You know, those are the kind of questions that you should be asking. And like I mentioned before, you know, job requirement is very important, and it starts from, you know, once there's a need for it, it's very important that the job requirement should be clearly spelled out. So while you are also planning, while you're also hiring, it is very important that you have succession planning in your mind, because most organizations have suffered severe loss because they didn't pay attention to succession planning. You know, once you are able to sit down and plan your hiring process like this, and for Mr. Kayode, who is a business owner, I'd also advise you to take a cue from this conversation and begin now to write out process and procedure for your hiring. You might think that you're small now, you don't know when you're going to blow up as an organization. It could be overnight. I mean, it's not overnight because you've been doing it, but it would look like, you know, it was just yesterday. But at the end of the day, it won't be nice if it's at that point that you start coming up with all these documents. It is very important that you start to work towards that now and get things, you know, ready and available, right? So for you to hire right, like I said, follow those process. Those things has to be done, and there are things that are very, very important, that they are very clear. You have to, first of all, there has to be a need for it. You don't just go and hire because you want to hire, right? That's an organization losing money. I don't think any company wants to lose money because you want to favor someone. And then the requirement has to be clearly spelled out. That is very important. because you cannot go and hire when you don't know what you need. You know, they say you cannot manage what you don't know. The truth is, you cannot even find what you don't know. So it is very important that you have your requirements clearly spelled out. You know, all of this that I've tried to explain here, this is what you need to do, you know, to be able to hire the right candidate for any position that you want to fill, right? So, is there any question that anybody might want to ask? So I take it that there's no question. Let's move to employee management and succession planning, right? So you have been able to hire, and you've also been able to hire the right person for that role. I am sure that you don't want to go through the process of hiring somebody for that role in another 6 months. Nobody wants to do that. Some organizations spend so much just to hire an employee. You know why? Because they would consult a HRO firm to either source, right? The source for candidate for that position. They would first interview, all that process they have to go through. They'll be paid well for it, especially for experienced role. Hardly would you see companies post on their page that they want to hire an MD. They don't do that. Or they want to hire an executive director for so department. Even if they post that out, it is not the company that is doing that. It's probably the HRO firm that they contracted that is doing that. So they don't want to go through that process again. It's time consuming, is fund consuming, and who time and money that they will put into expanding business, they put it into hiring. So that's why it is important that when you do this right. And when you have done it, you also have to manage that employee well, so that the employee don't wake up one morning and decide to leave. Now, if at the end of the day, right, the employee leaves, because eventually, they would leave, either to take another employment or to retire. So there has to be a plan for that role to be filled without you going through the process that you have gone through. That's where succession planning comes in. What if that employee, God forbid, pass one day? What happens to the business? If they fill a critical role, I believe the next day, from the very next day, the business will start to suffer. If the employee is sick, the business will start to suffer. Just imagine a manufacturing company that has equipment that needs to be operated to produce the products that they sell. And the staff who operates the machine overnight fell ill and was rushed to hospital. And the second staff is not available because there's an emergency. So your business is going to shut down for that day. That's where succession planning comes in. What if you run an FM company and you have taken over a building that was built many years ago? And at the time it was built, the contractor who built that structure left a few of their staff to run maintenance and operations of the building. There is no drawing for those guys. They have the drawing of the building in their head. Even in their sleep, they can tell you where the plumbing pipe passes through in that building. Those guys are king. If you're a facility manager, you have not experienced that, you still have a lot to see. They are king. They make serious yanga. So if that person wakes up in the morning and tell you, sorry, I know they work again. My papa say, make I come back home. What happens to your business? what happens to your site? You are going to start getting phone call every now and then, escalations on a daily basis. What that leads to is you eventually lose that contract, meaning that you lose that revenue and your business move a step backward. Depending on the size of that project, it could even crumble your business, right? So that is where succession planning comes in. You need to, when you're hiring somebody, already put it in mind that this person can leave at any time. So put a plan in motion that if that person leaves right now, somebody that would fill that role in the next 1 hour. So it is important that all these things are kept, in mind when we're hiring. But let's start with managing employee, right? You've hired, I'm sure you don't want that employee to wake up one morning and say, I'm not, or you don't want to go online and search for your own business and you see that the rating online, nobody actually wants to work in your place. The only staff that you have, they are there because they don't have option. They don't have option. Not that they don't have, they are not even saying, oh, the next one. No, they don't have option. If they have option, even if the money is even the same amount with your business, they would leave. Or you manage a site, right? And there are employees that report directly to you. You're a facility manager, you manage a site. I'm sure you know that as a facility manager of a project, you are the MD of that project. You are the HR of that project. You are everything of that project. You are the leader. And it is your role to ensure that the employees are happy, are satisfied, are happy working with you in that place, and they will not want to leave. And if they leave, it's because the next place they are going is far, 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 far better. So that's where motivation comes in. Employee motivation is very important. It is very important. Look, when people go to work, I'm sure all of us can relate. All of us can relate because we're human beings and we work. We have people that we report to, and some of us have people that report to us. So you know what motivation is. Sometimes you go to work and you just tell yourself that, oh, more motivation is low today, right? Within yourself. So that tells you that motivation is very important. It's one of those ingredients that promotes good culture within an organization. It's also one of those variables that, make people want to come to work the next day. They are eager and anxious to come the next day because it's, the environment is friendly, people are encouraged, people are happy, it's not just about the money. The money is also very important because it is also, but it's not just about the money. There are certain other things that can actually, motivate or demotivate employee. Most time, managers just put their mind in the money and they tell you that, oh, it's the project. There's really no money in this project. That's how much you can pay. There's no way I can motivate these guys. They're paid poorly. No, there are ways that you can motivate them. And that's what you're going to get here now. There are ways that you can look. Motivation, right? It is very easy for you to actually motivate some people. Very easy. Some people are easily motivated. You just need to find out what motivates those people. Because what motivates A might not be the same thing that would drive B's motivation. So as a manager, you have the responsibility to be able to study your employee, understand what motivates them at the individual level. That helps you manage them well, right? It helps you manage them well. If you realize that the reason why people go to work, right, is to sort out their biz. So it is then easy for you to pay them for what that they do so that they can sort out their biz. At the most, they'll give you the barest minimum, or they'll give you an average because you pay them. But what you want is an outstanding performance. What you want is high productivity. So you have to go beyond just the payment. You have to now find other means to motivate employee. So how do you motivate your employee? Caring for your employee. Caring for your employee. That's the key word. You have to care for your employee. And there are so many ways that you can care for your employee. Please, who can mention one way that you can show care to your employee? Hello, can one person volunteer and speak to that very quickly? One way, just one.
One way I want to mention is by.
Yes, go on.
Okay.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes,
Hello,
go on.
can you hear me? Okay. One way I want to mention
can hear you.
is insurance onboarding for your employees.
Thank you. So by insurance, you mean health insurance, right?
Exactly, sir. Yes, sir. A good one.
Good.
A very quality one.
Yes. Yes, very quality one. That's one way to motivate employee. When you don't have HMO for your employees and they fall ill, every time they fall ill and spend from the salary that you are paying them, they are angry. What you do is demotivate them. So even if they were not even motivated before, you've gone for that to demotivate them. So what do? You provide HMO for them, right? What other ways can you actually motivate your employee? Caring. This is actually the easiest of them, because for this, you are not even spending money. Just show care. Have all your managers show genuine care and concern for your employee. How many of you would go get to work in the morning and ask your staff how their weekend was? How many of you would see your employee in a very bad mood and state and would want to find out what the problem was, what the problem is? These things are little, they cost nothing, but they go a long way to improve employee performance. Have you not seen a place where a manager resigned? The staff under that manager, they are all feeling bad. Some of them would even want to cry because that manager is leaving, their Oga is leaving. Because that Oga shows genuine care and concern. So this is something that each and every one of us can key into. Please, can you mute your mic, please? So this is something that each and every one of us can key into, and at individual level, continue to motivate those people that work on us. Because it's not just about the organization. Sometimes we fight too much and we think, oh, company. In your own little ways, what are you doing? How are you motivating people working under you? Don't say, oh, I'm not motivated. You are mid-level or senior level manager. Come on. You can't go and show your employees or your subordinates that you are demotivated. Your attitude and how you manage your subordinates goes a long way to increase productivity or reduce productivity. So you have to show genuine care and concern. And at your level, you also have to find a way to let management see this. There's nothing wrong with an MD visiting locations once in a while. Do you know that? Do you know that if an MD go to a site and that MD meets the employees there, and the first or second person he or she meets, he or she calls them by their name, do you know how that employee would feel? Oh, MD know my name. Oh. And it is only MDs that care, that take the time to want to find out about their staff that are far, far below them. But these are very important things that go a long way to motivate employees. These are little things that can make your business income increase, can retain your company contract. Even when people are, because sometimes, especially in facility management, employees sabotage your contracts. Your staff at the site, they deliberately sabotage your contract so that the client will tell you to go. And there's one thing you need to know. When the client tells you to go, the next company coming in, the client will tell the company to retain the staff that you have there. And you cannot force those guys out of there. They are very happy to stay because they want you to leave. So you have to find a way to motivate these people, show them genuine care and concern. It is very important that this is there at the back of your mind. When you inculcate this culture within the organization, it becomes part of the organization. It becomes what managers are known for. Because when it's from the top, people below, they don't have a choice. They will follow it. Let them know what the culture of your organization is. Organizational culture is key. Some people do not pay attention to this, right? Because they feel like it's a document that you put. No, as an owner of the company or as an appointed MD or as a manager, you should understand what the culture is, and you should let that be something that is expressed and felt within the organization. Showing care and concern for an employee is part of the organizational culture. Then it should be felt by everybody in the organization. And that would go a long way to motivate your staff, improve productivity, and increase your revenue or prevent revenue loss. So let us remember how important these things are, because an employee needs to be able to perform well. If they are not, trust me, things will not move anywhere. Now, why we are managing employee, right? Why we are managing employee. But before I get to that, let me also just mention what you can use to motivate your employee. Training is also very important. When you train your employee, they see that you care about their career, you care about what they know, you want them to be better. That on its own, give them motivation. They want to, because you want them to be better at what they do. And also, right, it is important that you have an employee development system. How do employees transition within your organization? Can a plumber in your organization move from being a plumber to a plumbing supervisor? Can that employee from being a plumbing supervisor to being a facility manager? These are other ways that you can motivate employee within your organization, such that even when the money is not the biggest, they would even turn down offer in other organization because they know that once they get there, they are stuck. They are not moving beyond that level. You should give room for people to train, build their career, and climb the ladder. So that's another way that you also get to motivate your employee. Why you are motivating employee, it's also very important for you to know, what? Plan for succession, because eventually people would leave. Right now, the Jackpot syndrome. In fact, the Jackpot syndrome have been there for, I think, the last 8 years. Let's just say between 5 and 10 years. People have been really relocating out of the country. And the funny thing is, the best hands are actually leaving, because companies abroad see these people and they give them offer and they move with their family abroad. So people will definitely leave, whether you like it or not. But you shouldn't take it that, oh, no matter the motivation that I bring to bear, or no matter the care and concern that I show to my staff, if they want to leave, they would leave. Let them leave knowing that that organization is and most care and concern to the employee, rather than them leaving because place is the worst place to work. It's a toxic environment. I'm not sure any of us want that to be, the kind of company we work or the company that we want to run, right? So it is very important that we show genuine care and concern, but in the same time, also plan for succession, right? People will leave, whether you like it or not. So when they leave, somebody has to take over so that the business does not shut down, so that you don't lose revenue, you don't lose money. That's why you have to plan for succession. But what are those things that you should do, right? I mentioned that time that for an FM company that you have a technician who you inherited, and that technician has been in that building for maybe 15 years or more, right? So they know the building. In their sleep, they can tell you where one particular wire is in that building. So those people, they go with the drawing of the building in their head. Right. So you also have to plan succession for those kind of. So what do you do? Right. Ways that you can plan for succession is is to have support system for every employee. So if for that technician, right, you have to then have somebody who assists that technician, who's understudying that technician, so that over time, right, another person is also able to grab that information, right? So that's one way to do that. Another way in that particular instance, and I have to mention this because we're facility managers, you can actually find a way to, get that person to work with an architect to make a drawing of that building. Reason why I have to say this, you don't want to be in that kind of situation. It is not a good experience. I don't think you would like it. You want a situation whereby even when the person is there, you have that drawing, so that you don't have to face the shenanigan of that employee who has that information and nobody else has it, right? So because it shows in their attitude, it shows in their in different ways, especially for some of them. I mean, there are some that they still have a lot of respect for themselves and respect for the company. So it is very important that you plan for succession. You have people that are working closely with other people. You have a manager, a senior level manager, who's assisting that person, who's understudying that person, who can fit into that role if that manager retires, if that senior manager retires tomorrow. So you should have a plan, a documented plan that from this position, right, position can transition to the next position. So if you have that written, documented, and part of your business process, so once this position is there, they're already working closely with that next position that they can fill. So for every period of time, you have somebody who can fit into the next role, level, horizontal, vertical. So you have to have a plan where people are working together such that one person can move vertically, or horizontally. It's very important, right? So if it's not just about keeping that in your mind. And I think that's where most organizations make mistake. They say, oh, this is what we are going to do. It should stop there. It should be documented. Documenting it is also very important. Now, another way or another thing that you do is also to, have people move within departments. I know some organizations do that now. Even some FM do that, right? They would send some staff from one side to another, send some staff from one side to another. The idea is, so that this technician here works in another building. If the technician in that building is not available tomorrow, this technician can quickly fit into that role, without you having to run up and down. So it is very important that you have different programs like this, right, that help you make sure that if there's an issue, right, with one person, the next person can fit into that, even within the organization. So if you have different organizations, sometimes rotate people, let people let one employee work in this department today and the other department tomorrow. You can also have certain employees that they work with everybody. They are more like assistants, right? They work with everybody, not just one person. You can have multiple of them. They work with everybody. When valuable, they can fit into that role within the period that that is happening. So it is very important that you keep these ideas in mind. And like I mentioned, they should be documented. It's not just about saying that this is what we will do. What we will do, this is what we will do. You say verbally is not a strategy. A strategy is something that you've actually put together, documented it, and it is signed and shared across the organization, and everybody understands exactly what is to be done or what we are doing, right? So now go to module 3. Let's link organizational value to employee development. Recall that I mentioned employee development. What is happening within the organization? Are people there and they are stuck in one place, right? Are people there and they've moved up the ladder? Now let me ask a question. Anybody can answer this. If who here in this in any of you here that you've been promoted where you work, right? Can you just unmute your mic and indicate, please? You've been promoted where you work since you started working there. Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Can anybody? Okay, go on. Go on.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
go on.
but
I have.
not in this present job, the previous one.
I have.
Okay. I think Mr. Emmanuel's network is a
I
bit
have.
poor. Okay, so yeah, please go on. Go on. Philomena, please go on. Hello.
I have been. I have been promoted where
Okay,
I
you've
work.
been. Okay, it's fine. Now, fine. How did you feel when that happened?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. How did you feel when that happened? What was your feeling? How did you feel?
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay, please, can I
Hello?
speak? Just
All right, go on, Mr. Emmanuel.
okay, so I was
Yeah,
me, I was feeling
I was very happy. Yeah, I felt I
Okay,
can
so
hear
you
you,
were
sir. Can you hear
okay,
me?
okay. I can hear
I
you
can
now.
hear you. Can you hear
So
me?
yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. So you were very happy.
Can you hear me now, sir?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now. I said I
Okay.
have been promoted in currently where I work. And when that happened, I felt very fulfilled. I felt rewarded and I felt happy.
Okay. So how did it affect the way you view the organization?
Okay. Yeah. It's for me, it was a positive thought that hard work is rewarded and is noted, that the little effort you put in some is seen. That's how I felt.
Okay. So how did it affect your productivity? Or at least your thought of productivity. How did it make you want to see the organization succeed? Did it make you want to see the organization make more money?
Yeah, that's normal. It added to, in fact, it becomes my prayer points. It started from there. Each time I need to pray, I pray for my organization, knowing fully well that if the organization succeeds, it's going to be more win for me. So that also transcends what I do. Even onboarding me for this training is also a welcome development for me, and it's actually spurring me for a better productivity.
Great. So, Mr. Emmanuel, do you still want to add to it?
Okay, yes. So it was the previous job, in insurance company, in which from self-advisor to unit manager, because I made it of the target that they wanted.
Yeah.
And the good part of it was that I was new. So when it happened,
and it made you felt very happy and want to see the organization win.
yes.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel. I have to emphasize on this. I want us to understand that when people move up the ladder, there is this mindset shift that you put in them. The way they see the organization is different from how it was before. Now, even though they want to see the organization win before, they begin to see the organization as a place where they can grow, a place where they have a future, right? So it is very important that you have an employee development plan whereby people can climb the ladder, not just people at the management level, even at the bottom, right? The technicians, it is very important that you do that. So you also have to understand how to align organizational value with employee development need. What is that thing that the organization wants to achieve? What is the value that this organization holds, right? Every organization, they have their organizational values. They have their organizational need or organizational objective they want to achieve. It is very important that you know how to identify this, and this is built into the employee plan. You want to train employee. What are you going to train them on? What exactly, what kind of training you understand the culture, the corporate culture? That would also help you identify the kind of training that you should give to the organization, right? You need to understand the objective of the organization. You also need to understand the objective of the employees department. What are they trying to achieve? If you are their boss, what is that role that they play for you? You need to understand. That would help you, come up with an employee development plan for that person. And I always say that organizations should have employee development plan for, that is general. And at the department level, the head of department should be able to narrow that down to each employee, and you should have that plan that not just about training, but they can move, up. So when we even look at, linking organizational value and to employee development, you would see, this diagram on the slide, that at the bottom you see identifying organizational need and values. You identify that, then you identify job requirement. What is the person doing? How does it align with the organization? How does it help the organization? You manage performance, right? You guide professional development. So you provide guide for their professional development, not just within the organization. You do performance review. You can, from there, advise what, the kind of training they should go for. You also advise the kind of training that the organization should provide for them, whether internal or external, because it's very important that, you develop your employee. If you don't develop, then your business would suffer, right? And there are job-related characteristics. And I mentioned before from the beginning, when I had this flat, you have to identify the requirement for every job. When you do that, you are able to, from the very beginning, put out what you need. Does this person needs to understand emotional intelligence based on the job that they are doing? We all know that today, understanding emotional intelligence has become very important, the world we are today. So it's very important that you know what the characteristics should be based on the job, that they are going to be doing. And everything needs to be shaped by the organizational value. You look at certain values that with values, but there are some that, you go to any organization, you could see them, they'll tell you trust, they tell you safety consciousness, they tell you honesty. There's so many. You go to different organizations, they are there. So all this needs to be aligned, and it should be aligned from the very beginning. That's why I talked about hiring right. It's very important that when you want to hire, within that requirement, you look at the job itself, you look at the culture of the organization, you look at the value of the organization, and all these things are reflected on the requirements, so that at the end of the day, it helps you, get the right things that you need, that this person will so that the person you're hiring fits into the job, and the person also fits into the organization. So you will also need to manage performance, because as much as we hire right, we motivate, we plan for succession, it is important that we are sure that the employee is actually doing well. And the key performance indicators that we set out was seeing that they are achieving them. But how do you manage performance? Now let's look at what I have on the screen, which is performance management cycle. When you want to manage the performance, and I would say, especially for Mr. Kayode, who is an entrepreneur, that you try to start to build a culture in your organizations that reflect all of these things. It is very important that you manage performance. And as facility managers at our site level, we should know how to manage performance. It is something that is bottom up, right? Every organization should do that within department, within projects. It's something that is done quarterly. Now, we should understand what the process is. And then it starts from, setting expectations. And these expectations are set even from the very beginning when you're hiring. Because while working on the requirement, you have already come up with the expectations of that particular role, which forms part of the KPIs, right? So they are there. You know what the expectations are, and you have to train them. You must train them to be able to achieve those expectations, whether they know it before or not. You must train them, which is why part of employee motivation is, training. Part of employee development is training. Also employee growing within your organization requires, training for them to be able to fit into the next role. Even when we talk about succession planning, training is still there. So it's very important that you always train, your employee, and then you assess performance, which is the actual performance activity, which we'll talk about that, in the next slide, right? So you then reward or correct, right? Within that cycle, you see motivation in the middle, because motivation is very key, and that is where managing employee is. So while you are doing all of this, you're managing the employee. Now, when you assess performance, it should be to reward, and not to punish. That's where some organizations, they make mistake. They carry out performance management, and at the end of the day, they will tell you that, oh, you will not get your full salary this month. You're punishing because they didn't achieve. Did you even try to find out why they didn't achieve that objective or that expectations that you set from them, right? So there's also on the job training. Let us always find a way to have that system in place. When I was talking about succession planning, I say people should walk around. You should have people working with different people. They are learning on the job, right? They are growing, and it should be something that is, everybody has the opportunity to get involved in. And within the organization, what is the career growth trajectory of everybody? I mentioned before, can an FM technician move from being a technician to FM professional, right? Where they've gone beyond just a technician, they are supervisors that can make decisions at that level. Or can they move from that level to being a facility manager, or even moving up to becoming an FM executive? These are questions that you have to ask yourself. These are questions that you should ask your people where you work, so that after this training, when you go back and you are talking to them, they know that you've gone for a training and you've taken information that is beneficial to the organization. And you are also able to come up with solutions. You are able to come up with recommendations on things that should be done to improve performance within the organization. So it's very important that, we learn to do all this. Now, why we have, been able to hire right, manage employee well, motivate, plan for succession, even come up with a career development within the organization. Look, organizations, performance management in organization is a serious business, very serious business. But as much as it is a very serious business, it should be an opportunity to improve, the finances, an opportunity to improve the people, right? When I say improve the people, make them better at what they do. Because when you do performance management, the goal should be to identify if they are doing well or not. And if they are not doing well, why are they not doing well? Then you come up with ways to make them better. So performance management, like we discussed before, I talked about the cycle, right? You set expectations, you train, you assess performance, you reward or you correct. And by correct, I mean you identify where the gap is, right? Sometimes it might just be that you have somebody who he or she, he or her call is actually sales, but you have them in operations, or you have them in another unit where they are not even happy, so they are not able to perform well, right? So when you understand this concept, it helps you, to be able to identify what the problem could be. It could just be that that person is in the wrong place. And if you take that person to the right place, they are going to be stars. They will perform so well that you will be surprised. So these things needs to be, clearly thought out. That's why I always say some organizations just do performance management for doing sake. Let it not be that we are not doing it, or let it not be that we don't have record of it. Maybe if we want to do ISO certification tomorrow, we have documents to, go through the audit. Some do it because of that. Some do it because, let's just do it so that the employees will know we are doing it. Some do it because they want to punish employee for not doing well. You get, so that objective it matters. If the objective is wrong from the very beginning, the entire process is going to be a mess. It will not benefit the organization. Don't go through a performance management system, or don't set up a performance management system that the sole objective is to punish people. It is counterproductive, right? Now, when we talk about performance management, we're basically talking about performance appraisal. So I want us to take a 5 minutes break, right? So that you can take a walk around. I believe we'll be sitting for a while. Just 5 minutes. This is 3:33. By 3:38, we would continue the class. Thank you. Yes. So I hope you had a nice little walk around. Yeah. So like I was saying, right, I was talking about performance appraiser, and um, I mentioned that I already explained the performance cycle, which I briefly did again. But the actual performance exercise, is the performance appraiser. And how does it happen? It could be formal, it could be informal, right? Uh, Informal is when it happens without, most time you don't even know. This happens to us every day. When you do something and your manager, just have conversation with you, or your supervisor have that quick conversation with you on the spot that, oh man, this thing that you did is very good, very good. It's usually continuous. You do something, uh, and people tell you that this great job, great job. That's sort of an informal way of appraising the staff, and it's more of a continuous feedback on the things that you do or how well you have done. The formal part of it is, of course, the format that many organizations do, and it is mostly quarterly, although some would say every 6 months. But I know in many organizations, it's usually done quarterly, where everybody comes and your supervisor would, appraise you. It is documented. It has a process. You form the appraiser form. You rate yourself based on certain parameters that are there, and of course, they are the expectations that have been set for you. So you rate yourself, what you think, then you pass to your supervisor or your line manager. He or she, also do the same thing. They rate you as well, and then the both of you then meet and have a conversation about the rating, what you think about the whole exercise. I mean, the whole rating, why you feel that you deserve that, and then your manager, your line manager, will also let you know why he or she rated you the way she did, and then why she think that that's your performance. But at the end of the day, the both of you are able to come to a place where you agree. Uh, More importantly, which I feel should be the goal for every organization, you are both able to determine where you seem to be lacking, right, and what should be done for you to improve, right? So organization, I mean, some organization would definitely do this. They then come up with a plan, an improvement plan for you, trainings, maybe even additional task or less task, depending on what it is. It could even get to a point where you get moved from one department to another. But what I need you to understand is that the purpose really is to be able to determine if you're meeting expectations or not, and if you're not, right, why you're meeting expectations. Of course, during appraisal, some employees are even, passing expectations, they're exceeding their expectations. So that's what it is, and it has to be done very right for the best outcome to be achieved. And why should you do performance appraisal? It keeps employee motivated. We talked about motivation before, and it is that way when the objective is, when the exercise is done rightly. Because I've also seen where it becomes, or I've heard of where it becomes an opportunity for supervisors to punish their subordinates, or managers to punish their subordinates, because you don't like to show them that you will continue to keep them where they are. Or maybe because you've asked for a favor from your subordinate and they refuse, you feel like you should punish them. So another objective is it changes behavior more effectively. It gives clear sense of how job performance is viewed by manager and supervisor. It strengthens the organization, of course. Identify strongest and weakest employee. And when this happens, it shouldn't be for you to punish the weakest or for you to send them away. The goal should be for you to, find out why they are weakest and where can they be the strongest, If you have to reassign tasks, you do that. Or what kind of training can you provide to actually improve on that? Before you send an employee away, you should have done everything possible, to make sure that you have seen that, there's nothing that can be done to this one. Because most time, right, like I said, it could just be that that person is in the wrong place. It could also be the wrong organization, but what you should be concerned about is maybe he's doing the wrong work. You try to identify what or where is the best place that, that should happen. Now, even when organizations do everything that I've talked about, yet, some organizations still perform poorly. Why is that? The conflict and emotions. Because people are different, we have different kind of people in the organization. There's diversity within every organization. There tend to be conflict and emotions, and when they are not properly managed, organizations still perform poorly, even when they are doing well, right? Even when the management are doing the right thing, either to motivate employee or not, right? Connection with compensation, if you also don't pay well, right? That's also another thing that can make organizations perform poorly. Performance appraisal system. What makes an appraisal system effective? It should be positive and constructive focus, right? Progress towards long-term goals. So when you do it, the progress, or it should transcend to having a long-term goal for an employee, and not just to come and shout and deduct salary. Valid and specific key performance indicators. Those should be there. You can't measure what you don't know. To identify what the KPI is before you can actually measure it. Effective appraisal method. Like I said, it should be, when we said formal appraisal, it has to be clearly, the process has to be clear, the intentions have to be, genuine and clear as well, right? So training of evaluators. Sometimes your organizations just feel that there's no need for this, so the managers will do it. This manager might not even know what appraisal is or what the objective should be. Hence, you are leaving it in the hands of somebody that knows nothing about it. So train them, let them understand what the objective is, let them understand what the process is, and it should be documented. Very important that it's documented. There are different types of method of appraisal system. There's 3-degree system feedback, there's category, comparative, category rating, where you put, you come up with multiple category where you just put employee into each of those categories, and then you use that to evaluate their performance. Comparative, you use one employee and another, to compare their performance and then see what they are doing. But what is important, it doesn't matter what the method is, because I have also seen that it's almost the same method that everybody uses in every organization. They focus on financial, they put figures into every performance, that especially for sales, maybe operations and some other departments, they come up with, they look at customer experience, product output, and all of that to be able to, tell what their performance is. But at the end of the day, they still try to put numbers, right? They still try to put rating into it, such that they're able to come up with a quantifiable level of performance, right? Now, conducting the performance appraisal itself, there has to be a meeting. I mentioned before, the employee feels sent to the supervisor, the line manager, and then they discuss. So what are the stages that should happen? Prepare, you discuss, you document. Now, prepare, the employee fills the form, look at it, read through, understand what it is, feel, sends to the supervisor. The supervisor also, look at it, understand what it is, feel, and then both of them meet and they discuss, talk about what they think, come to a consensus, and then they document and send to HR for filing, right? So diversity within an organization. Every organization have different set of people within the organization, and there's diversity within an organization. You have different age group, you have different, male and female, you have different age group, you have different there's different tribe, different states, different race in organization. Some organization, their diversity is so wide, such that they have people from different countries. And so you have to be able to manage that diversity. Diversity is a good thing. It brings innovation within an organization. If you are not able to manage it, it can also be very chaotic. it can become problematic. So it is important that in organizations, right, they find ways, they come up with ways to manage diversity, because if you manage it poorly, right, what you have or what you will get at the end of the day, right, is high turnover of staff, low productivity, poor solutions, right, low job satisfaction, and poor attitude towards diversity. You have people of different diversity trying to attack each other and others. But when you manage this properly, right, you have creativity within the team, you have job satisfaction, high productivity, quality outcome and innovation. But how do you manage it? What is that best way for you to manage it? To have good training, train everybody, let them understand that, we have different people here and they should understand what their peculiarity is. Because if you don't understand this, one, you might not even approach me the way I like or the way I should be approached. I'm sure you would understand that Yoruba people like to be respected. It's a culture for them. If you're working together with them and you come off as not respectful, it becomes an issue for them. It might not be everybody within the Yoruba ethnic group, but we know that that is one thing that we know about them. So understanding all of this, training your employee to understand all of this, training them to know what they are supposed to do in their job, helps you also manage, understand communication, how to communicate with people or different people, different kind of employee. It is very important. In communication, like I mentioned, differences in value. You have to train them or letting them know that there's a difference in value, right? What I value as a person on the individual level, not at the organizational level, is different from the next person. And if that is not put into proper perspective, if we don't take cognizance of that, I would probably communicate with you, very poorly, and it will lead to problems. Strong team identity. You have to let them know that it's a team, right? It's a team, and we are all working together. So strategies to manage diversity. How do you manage diversity? I already mentioned, straightforward things that you can do to help you manage diversity. But on a larger scale, you have to be able to align policies and practice with diversity. So when you have processes within the organization, your processes should reflect recognition of diversity, that people are different, and that, that would always reflect within the team. Once your process identifies that and it addresses it, it becomes part of the culture, and everybody, is fine and okay. Building balanced team. Try to have, even a diverse team, because diversity is actually an advantage. Let it be balanced, not a situation where you have, more of this and less of this. It tends to, bring in balance and can be problematic. Building cohesion, bring everybody together. The process should be such that, it brings everybody together. Supporting diversity through training, train people, and then recruiting for diversity. Actually, recruit diversity. Like I said, it's an advantage. It brings innovation. People bring ideas from, their upbringing, from their understanding, from their personal or ethnic value system. All this can be, an advantage when there's cohesion and everybody are able to bring what they have to the table, right? So it is very important that we manage diversity properly so that it becomes an advantage, and at the end of the day, it could even be part of your competitive advantage as a business. So now we need to also align FM practice, right? As facility managers, so that when we talk about HR, we also don't move too far from facility management. As FM professionals, we have to learn how to align practice to everything that we do. So there's always, a strategic goal for every organization. Even you as an FM company, there is that strategic goal for you. Your clients as well, they have their strategic goal. You have to be able to, align all of this together. So if you have a project with a client, what is that their goal? Let activities that happen at that site aligns with that organizational goal, because that is the best way that you can actually add value to what they do. Within your FM organization, what is the organizational value? The the departments, they also have their goal, and it has to align with the organizational goal. All of this, helps build cohesion. It helps bring everybody together within the organization. And at the end of the day, you have a very cohesive team, right? Which is good for the business, and it helps increase productivity. Now, let's look at, the need for comfort, because when we talk about motivate at the very beginning, how do you even motivate people? What's your understanding of people? I mentioned before that what motivates A might not be the same thing motivating B. And Maslow talked about this. There's what we call the Maslow's hierarchy of need. He said that people move from one level to the other. And as managers, as leaders, we need to understand that levels, as it will help us understand what will motivate that person as an employee. For somebody who is barely just starting off life, right, who for what they're thinking is how to actually eat, and you have a place to sleep. You cannot use the same thing to motivate another person who what they're thinking of is how to belong, how to be seen, how to know that, how people will know that they are fine, they are living well. So you need to understand all that categories. And he mentioned the psychological need, that there is that stage of people's life where what they are thinking of is just how to eat, you get, where to sleep, just those basic needs, food, shelter, that is what they are thinking of. Once you are able to give them that, you've motivated them. And he also said that people move from one level to the other, because once they've gotten that, human beings are insatiable. They start thinking of the next line. Once they've gotten that psychological need and they've been there for some time, they move to the next level where they start thinking of safety, right? Security, how safe I am, how secure am I, right? Am I financially secure, right? Is my house secure? Am I financially secure? If I lose my job now, right, what's going to happen to me? Can I lose my job? They start looking at all those things. Is my job secure? So once you also are able to understand that this person is actually in that level, it's easy for you to motivate that person by, coming up with several measures that will make the person see that his job is secure, right? That he can climb the ladder to continue to earn more, right? So understanding this is very important. And it's not just for HR, it's also for even facility managers. And I said it before that facility managers are MDs at their various sites, they are HR at their various sites. So they need to understand human psychology and how humans think, what the needs are and how those needs change. Is talking about. And then he also mentioned that from safety and security, you move to social belonging. At that point, you want to belong. You want to be seen. You want people to know that you've arrived. You get. So from that level, you are now looking at esteem, where you feel like you belong to, the best of the best. You belong to the social class. You belong to, your class is at that level where when you talk, people will listen, you get. And then before you even know, the people are already thinking of how to leave that level or move from that level to the highest of all, which is self-actualization, where you begin to think that there's nothing more. I have achieved what I can achieve. You look at people like Dangote, they are at that level. But you also wonder what is still motivating them to do more, right? Because if Dangote decides today that I don't even want to do anything again, Dangote Group would fetch him enough money to live till he dies, and even his children and children's children will still be able to enjoy the wealth, right? So that is that level. People move from one of this level to another. And Maslow is saying, as managers, that we need to understand this. This will help us manage people properly. With this, you'll be able to keep an employee in your business for 20 years, right? Because you understand where they are and you know how to motivate them, right? So let's also look at facility in itself, because when we talk about keeping employee, motivating employee, right, the environment where they work is also very important. If you have an employee who you've spent so much to hire, you pay so well, and they are doing well, they're actually the productivity is good. But if the environment where they work is not okay, they would even want to leave. The lighting is bad. You can imagine, as simple as lighting is an issue for some people. I've seen some employees where they go and work from house, they'll tell you that I'm not coming to the office because the light in their office is bad, or because the AC in their office is not cooling well, right? So you need, as managers, we need to also understand this, that it is very important that the environment where people work is in proper condition. And when we talk about indoor environmental quality, we are looking at temperature, we are looking at indoor air quality, we are looking at lighting, we're looking at noise, and then we're looking at cleanliness. But let's just touch them very quickly. For indoor air quality, right, we're basically looking at the air within the space. How is it? Is it clean, right? But when you're looking at the air, there are certain things that you need to consider. So if you want to cool a space, certain things that you need to consider. If you want to cool an office, you want to put an AC in an office. If it's not properly designed to that space, you would have a situation where the AC is not adequately cooling the space. And when doing that, certain things that you have to look at is, what are the equipment that are in that office or in that space? What kind of furnitures are there? All right, how many people will be working there? And what constitutes the wall, vis-a-vis the external environment? Because during the day, sun will definitely hit the wall. So what kind of wall is there? Is it glass? Is it block? So you need to consider all of that to be able to design for air quality. And then there's lighting, right? What is the lighting level? What lighting level should even be there? Light is measured in lumen, right? Some people don't know. Most times they just think about wattage. The brightness of the light is actually not about the wattage, right? So you have to also understand this, and you have to know the amount of light that should be in that space. People have different lighting level that they like. Some people will tell you that they prefer warm white in their office. Some will tell you they prefer pure white in their office, but there are standards, but you also have to consider what people prefer depending on the environment. If you have an office environment that has a lot of sunlight coming in, right, even though you have window blinds, you probably could do warm white. But if you have an office space that everywhere is dark, if you don't turn on the lights, you will probably be looking at pure white. But some people would even tell you that irrespective of the environment, they want pure white. They want the space to be as white as possible. But what is really important is, what are you doing? What are you working on, right? So the lighting has to be appropriate for the kind of work that you are doing. And then there's also noise. If the noise is too much, right, you'll be comfortable. You'll be uncomfortable, and you might not be able to work well. If you look at an office building within Lagos Island, certain areas of Lagos Island, there is serious noise coming from outside. You have different vehicles honking their horn, right? So those noise tend to disturb. And noise is measured in decibel, right? Abbreviated as dB. And there is a certain level that people should not be exposed to. Now, as the level continues to go up, the time of exposure continues to reduce, right? So if you expose somebody to a noise level of 80 decibel for an hour, you are most likely putting that person in a situation where they would go deaf. And today, there are some people that are deaf, they don't know, because they don't hear well, but they don't know, right? That's one funny thing. We all hear at different levels, and it is as a result of the exposure of environment where we've been exposed to noise, but we really do not know this. You will just think that that's the highest level of that person. When you're watching movie with somebody, you will be thinking that the TV is too loud, but another person will be thinking that it's too low, because you both hear differently, and it is because of exposure over time. And it is very important that the environment is designed such that the noise level is very low, for an office environment. If you look at the slide, you would see different level, right? The hearing threshold for an office environment, it shouldn't be above 20 decibel, or even be up to 20 decibel, because it's an office environment and it's meant to be quiet for people to actually think and, you know, do their work properly. And then there's also cleanliness. The environment needs to be clean. There are different levels of cleanliness. What level is your office? Is it level 1, which is orderly spotlessness? At this level, there's no single stain anywhere. If you carry your hand and touch everywhere, you will not bring out dust from any surface. Everywhere is sparkling clean, right? So would you say that that is the level where your office is? If not, go back and work on this. And as facility managers, this level 1 should be our target, because our job is actually to make sure the environment where it is safe and convenient for everybody to work, right? So the next level is ordinary tidiness, right? How clean is it? Is it just, you know, is it tidy, ordinarily tidy? We should, again, like I said, we should target. Next level, next lower level is the casual, you know, inattentiveness. There's also the moderate and dinginess. So we need to be able to understand all of this level. And I mentioned that the target level should be level 1. As facility managers, that's what we should keep in mind. And when we go back to our workplace after this training, that is what should be our end goal. That is what we should try to go and implement in our workplace. For some of us, I'm sure your organizations even paid for this training. You don't want a situation whereby you go back. It seems as if you've gone for a training and they're not feeling the impact. They need to feel it. I've said a lot of things here today that you can take back and implement. Now, there's also stress, which has to be managed. And there are different things that can cause stress. There's poor alignment of work expectation. You set for the work, and they don't have the tools to be able to even do the job. They don't even understand the expectations. So you have to be able to align the expectations. You bring in new technology. People don't even know how to use the technology. You have that change. Now they are stressed. There's economic changes. What we are experiencing now, or what we've been experiencing for the last couple of years. Inflation is surging high. The money we take home is no longer enough. That in itself is a lot of stress, right? So change, you know, and different other causes, you know, other things that causes stress. Ergonomics is also another thing that, you know, we need to know how to manage within the environment. Ergonomic, you know, one way to manage that is to have chairs that, you know, they are ergonomically designed. You can adjust them any of position that you want or that your body desires. If not, you would create a problem where people leave your workplace and they start having, you know, they start getting so tired. They start having what we call musculoskeletal disorder, that joints are paining them, and it can get to a point where it becomes chronic. So you need to learn to manage this situation. Buy them chairs that, you know, they sit on and they are very comfortable. Buy them table that they work with rather, and they're very comfortable. So it is important that we, you know, design our facilities such that people are comfortable to work, people are happy to come to work, and, you know, people are productive because the environment where they work is rightly designed. Now let us conclude. We started with hiring, right? And I closed that by saying that the right person has to be hired for the right FM job. If you hire the wrong person, you are getting it wrong from the beginning, and you're creating a problem that will last a long time. Succession planning is vital in assembly FM team. I gave an instance of an FM example where I said somebody who has full knowledge of a building, only him has that. You have a problem the day he leaves. You run the factory, you have just one person running the equipment, you have a problem when he leaves. So you need to be able to plan for succession. Should that person leave, what happens? Who takes over? And I gave you different strategies on how you can manage that. Make sure employee competence are shaped by organizational values and goals. So look at the values of the organization, look at the culture of the organization, look at the goal of the organization, and align that to your hiring. So if you're putting up requirements, factor that into your job requirement, and not just the actual job itself. Because while the person fits into the job role, the person also has to fit into the organization. right? So effective performance appraisal is beneficial for team motivation. And I mentioned motivate team. I gave different strategies on how you can motivate team. There must be a clear-cut path to self-actualization as defined by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So your career development plan should reflect Maslow's hierarchy of need so that people would, even before they start thinking of the next level, the organization is already showing them that, look, we have your next level planned out for you. Just put in the work and you will get there, right? And finally, workplace conditions must be tailored towards employee productivity. Don't come and hire an office building where people are not comfortable. They have to be comfortable. You have to make sure the environment is sweet enough for them to be anxious to come to work the next day. So we'll close the class there. Let's take questions so that we can close completely. Questions, please. Are there questions? Question? Hello?
All right. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm Dominic by name, sir. My question is
All right.
just you made mention of if you find your office space in a place that the outside noise is very much to a point of disturbing those who are working inside. So what are those things you should or someone can put in place to like caution that?
Good. Yeah, so that it's about the design, right? So what you need to do, what you're doing there, I would say there are different ways that you can do that. One, right, is to eliminate it completely. You know, in safety, they'll tell you hierarchy of control, moving from the most impactful, which sometimes is the most difficult or most expensive, to the least impactful or least expensive, right? So you can decide to eliminate it. Of course, does the business have enough money to change the office completely and move to another location where you don't have noise? Maybe they don't. So you can substitute, right? Which is also looking for another option. Or you can use an engineering control. In this case, you know, for a noise, that's one thing that you can do. You can change the windows, right, to acoustic windows, you know, soundproof windows. There are windows or glass windows that they are soundproof. So you're inside, there's a lot of noise outside. You won't be hearing it. Even though you're hearing, it will be very minimal, right? Where I work, right, we have different office space. In fact, we are in the middle of noise. We have different office space. There are some office that you will enter, you will not hear noise from outside. You come out of that office and enter another office, it will look as if you are in the middle of markets. It's because we've designed that office such that the walls are soundproof, the windows are soundproof. That's one way that you can manage that. Or you decide to give your employees PPE, give them earmuff to work, right? But of course, we don't want a situation where people come into office and see everybody wearing earmuff. So the best approach is actually to come up with an engineering control, change the windows, you know, because the noise, when noise going through a block wall is already filtered compared to window. So you can use soundproof window where the noise level also goes significantly low. Does that answer your question, please?
All right, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Any other question? Any other question? So do I take it that everybody got, you know, everything I gave out and will understand it?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay. I think that brings the class then. Thank you very much for the class. Again, I want to say I'm sorry for coming late for the class, and it was such an honor, taking you on this course. I wish you the best in everything that you plan on achieving, and thank you for your time.
All
Good
right,
night.
thank you, sir. Thank you. Good night, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the class. It was an interesting one. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us to this section. See you all next week. And please don't forget to fill the feedback survey